Thank you, Andrew. I would like to reiterate what Andrew said. We do very much appreciate the coverage. Like most coaches, some days when you take a nail on the chin, it's not great to get coverage, but goes with the territory. But it is of great benefit to us. We feel like we're the most covered baseball program in the country, and that's part of our recruiting package when we're out trying to lure young men to come play for us. So we are very grateful for the time that you put into our baseball program. That being said, we're anxious to get underway again. It's always exciting, the first official day, and we're going to get back at it. We got some veterans back on the field, some guys that enjoyed a tremendous year last year and got some holes to fill, but we're going to work hard to get in position to play at the end of the year. It's nothing different than it has been in the past. We got to find out who the guys up front are going to be on the mound, and a lot of position players are back and that those positions are set. We got 3 weeks of scrimmages, hopefully if the weather cooperates, and we'll be ready to go on February 18th.
Ray, how many times this offseason have you gotten the question, can you guys win it all again?
I kind of, after a while, when I was out on the circuit, I would sort of start my speeches with repeat, so I could save the time during the process. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been great, and I love the situation we're in. I love expectations here. It's part of the deal. We want our fans and alumni to feel like we do as players and coaches, and all you can do is try to get in the postseason. Last year became magical. We played as good as we could play at the right time of the year, and certainly we know how difficult it will be to repeat. I don't think you'll get any of my players to say that we'll do that today, although some might. But the deal is, you just try to get in position, and that's all you can do.
Skipper, last year was my first year covering you, and you said going into last year that this was going to be like no team that you would actually coach before. You're going to have to scrap. You're going to have to manufacture defense, pitching, and you won a national championship doing it. Has it changed your philosophy as a coach in putting together a team and the way you play throughout the season?
Well, I think that I started undergoing a transition probably a couple of years ago when we got the message in 2008, 2009 that the BAT legislation was on the horizon. This is actually the second time, and some of the BAT manufacturers told us that you might want to think a lot more about pitching and defense and guys that could run versus the power hitters and the 3-run homer. And of course we know the success that Coach Bertman had at LSU with the 3-run homer, and it's changed. I think most people will tell you their home run totals were down this fall by at least 50%, some more. It remains to be seen what exactly is going to happen, but pitching and defense always give you a chance to win. It may be even at a greater premium. But what I think is important is guys that can go from first to third, guys that can score from second on a base hit, guys that can bunt, guys that can steal a base with a green light. So it remains to be seen, but it is probably a change for college baseball.
Coach, it says under starting pitchers, Webb and Roth, and then a whole bunch of or this guy or that guy. Season order start today, Webb and Roth on Friday, Saturday?
That would be correct if we started today, but I think the difference is, like last year, for instance, you had Cooper and Dyson, and the 3 weeks prior to opening day probably wasn't going to change much, regardless of how they pitched. That's not the case now. I think Webb and Roth are out front based on what they've done in the past and in the fall, but it's not by a great margin. I think they're going to have to continue to prove to us that they deserve to be out there. They position themselves. Beyond that, it's going to come from a host of pitchers, guys that we like, guys that we think we have some depth, but maybe haven't set themselves apart at this time.
How does Westmoreland look at this point?
He's been outstanding. He's in great shape. I think he's the lightest he's been in a long time. He's worked out extremely hard. His bullpens have been good. He does have a little bit of experience under his belt. That's an advantage for him. But what he does the next 3 weekends makes a difference as well. And I'll go ahead and address the Matt Price scenario. Right now we got him in the bullpen. We think that if we can get to him, he's about as good as you get in college baseball. But if you don't get to him and you don't give him enough opportunities, then you're wasting a good arm sitting down there in the bullpen. So that could be adjusted as we go. We'd like to help him decide more than one game a week. And if he's a starter, then he's probably out there once. If he's in the bullpen, probably twice, maybe a third time possibly later on in the year. But that's where we are. He's doing really well, although he will not pitch this weekend. We'll hold him out. He's been sick. He had a touch of strep, missed 3 workout days, and we're just going to hold him just because Coach Myers would like for him to have a real good day of side work before he goes back into a scrimmage, because he missed 3 days. That's the only reason we're holding him.
Ray, how much has Jerry Myers already made an impact on this team and this pitching staff?
Well, I personally think that he's made an impact, and based on some bullpens that I've been able to see in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I think he helps a tremendous amount with maturity, poise, and composure with our guys. He leads by example, but he's a teacher as well, and he tends to bring out the best in guys. So I'm anxious to see, really this weekend what happens with Harper, with Belcher, with Westmoreland, Neff, Colby Holmes. I'm anxious to see, get the batters now for a few days.
With all the running around that you've done this off-season, all the appearances, does it almost seem like a relief now that you can finally start to concentrate on baseball again?
Well, I'm going to be back to somewhat of a normal schedule for a change, but a relief sounds like maybe I didn't enjoy it, and quite honestly, I did enjoy it. Other than maybe not being at home quite enough during the week. Some nights I was out 4 or 5 nights doing different events. It was a blast. I mean, the reason I was out there is because we won a national championship. Not because I'm a great speaker, mind you, but that's why I was on the circuit. And I enjoyed it. It was great, and it was a lot of fun, I think, for everybody. But now we're getting close to baseball full time.
Coach, how have your guys embraced the new bats and the mentality that goes with them?
I did something that a few coaches did around the country with this bat change, and there's competition out there among the different companies. They all presented scenarios and product, and I basically told my players, I don't get the hit you guys do. You've got to be the guys in the lab. You've got to look at these bats, use them, experiment, see what you think is best. And they really made the decision. We still at this point have not made an official decision, but it's the players' decision. I have not gotten involved in that. I told our players we will use whatever you want to use. And a couple of them even said wooden bats. I said, with the exception of wooden bats. Because the new aluminum bats are more wood-like. I think there's a 5% differential, but you still have an opportunity maybe with an aluminum bat, if you don't hit it on the sweet spot, to possibly get it out of the infield. But, the ball stays in the park. Now, we'll hit balls out in batting practice. It's not as many as before, but it's different. And I think the traditionalists are going to love the game, and I don't have a problem with it. It's the same for everybody. I know our game was pretty good, and I hope that the fans embrace that. That's the only issue I have. Baseball's been pretty good, and I don't want to wake up in the middle of April and our fans not be happy with the way the game's played across the country.
I don't know how to ask
Following
you.
up with the, all the appearances, you just said that you enjoyed it. Does that maybe become a little addictive? You're in such demand, you're lauded everywhere you go, and you go, hey man, this is great, we gotta keep on winning the national championship.
Well, I believe that together everyone accomplishes more, and if we have more ticket sales, if we have greater attendance, we have more enthusiasm, that's what it's all about. I believe that. When I first got here, I went to a lot of meetings. I invited myself quite a few times, and I was trying to sell tickets. I was trying to get them interested in Carolina baseball, and Dr. McGee at the time, he put me out there in a number of situations. We didn't even have reserved seats when I got here at the Sarge. We had general admission, and I believe that that's part of the process. You got to have good players, good coaches, but you got to have everybody involved, including our fans and supporters. And I enjoy all that. I don't mind the expectations. I don't mind the negativism at times. I think that's it's a compliment. It's maybe a backhanded one at times, but I'm okay with all that. I've been in this game for a long time, and if there ever is a day that I feel that the pressure is too great, more than I put on myself, then I probably have to rethink the profession. But I believe in that. I feel strongly about that. And expectations is good for everybody.
Coach, try to put in perspective for us these new bats. I'm thinking of that Adam Matthews home run against Florida last year that almost cleared the left field stands. You remember that one? Is that 15 rows shorter? Is there any sort of...
It remains to be seen. Probably the sweet spot is not as great. Balls that get squared up by big, strong guys like Adam Matthews will still travel. I mean, he hit a couple of balls up on the bridge yesterday in batting practice, so he can still, he can still charge the ball. So can Walker, so can Bradley, but not as many. When you miss balls, you don't miss balls and hit them in the bullpen. Now you have to hit them pretty good. Wingo hit 8 or 9 home runs last year. He may do that again because he is more physical than he's ever been. However, he might not. There might be more balls on the warning track. So I just believe that you just won't see as many home runs. Now, remember, warm days, the wind blowing, it still might change the game a little bit. But I think there's going to be less homers.
Coach Stanner, is this season, to say it would be just another season seems like that wouldn't exactly be the term either, but are you in uncharted water as a coach coming off a national championship? Is this a new, different kind of season for you?
Well, I don't think it's drastically different. The only thing is, as I said earlier, guys out front are not defined well enough yet. Could be Webb and Roth right now. But we'll find ourselves a little bit more as we go, but most teams take on those characteristics. We got some veteran guys back. We know there's so many good teams around the country, and there's some in our league. Florida's ranked #1. So, and Vandy's in the top part. So there's so many good teams, but there normally are in the Southeastern Conference. So we're just going to try to play the game the way it's supposed to play it and get in a position to win. I hope our depth is good on the mound, and if we keep pricing the bullpen, we feel good at the back. But that's all it is. It's I don't want to say it's just another season. It's a year after you just won a national championship. But our approach will not be any different. We're going to try to win games, and hope you win enough to get to play at the end.
Is it possible to put in layman's terms what the ball back coefficient of restitution standard means? How do you explain that to fans when fans read that, what these new bats?
Less exit speed. Balls just don't come off the bat as fast. That's the difference. The exit speed off the bat is not as great as it normally has been, and that's where it is. So, defense is always important at any level, wooden bats, major leagues or little leagues. So it becomes even greater now. You can't give up bases and opportunities. I think that the day of the 13-12 game may be past.
How does this standard differ from the old standard, the other one?
Just less. The aluminum bats, the walls are thicker. They're thicker. So there's less trampoline effect. There's less exit speed. It plays more wood-like. It has to satisfy standards. The bats have to be tested. So there you go.
Why don't you just go to wood bats?
Well, I think that question was asked, but then you got money issues. Major League Baseball, are they going to underwrite certain conferences? They're going to underwrite all conferences. There's been some dialogue along those standards, but at the end of the day, wooden bats still are more expensive than aluminum bats. Not individually, but collectively. A wooden bat will break and you're done. We use wood. We use wood in practice a lot, and we broke out some wood the other day. First day out, we broke 2 wooden bats. They're done. Aluminum bat you can use for a while. There are some programs that use 8 or 10 aluminum bats the entire season. We tend to replace ours a little bit. There's only so many reps in a bat. Even though it may be fine, we like to put some new ones in there. So it still is a financial issue as to why we're not using wood.
Was there major concerns about teams doing this bat rolling? Given that?
It was brought up, but I don't think that really was. I think that happens more in softball than and I don't mean women's softball. I mean at the softball level, the professional level, and they didn't have any standards. It was let's go out and hit some long ones, and I think that's where that happened more than anywhere else. It was said to have happened in college baseball some, but I never saw any reason to believe that happened in our league or against anybody we played.
I know the pitching staff is starting to take shape a little bit. What's going on with catcher in your eyes right now?
Well, you know, Kyle Enders was here yesterday visiting a little bit. You miss guys like that, your fifth-year veterans, your captains, the guys that are, you know, they're guys that are solid for you. We're gonna have a new guy back there. Dante Rosenberg is a guy that may have a leg up, although he's hurt a little bit. His back's been bothering him. I think he'll be active today, but he's not a guy that's gonna catch 60 games. Brent Worsham worked extremely hard. Robert Barry. We're still waiting on Brady's status if he's able to get eligible. Those 3 or 4 guys that I mentioned, they're solid guys. I think it's a matter of getting their feet wet and having the pitchers get comfortable with them. So we're not going to put a guy behind the plate that can't do it. And it's not a case where we're really, really inexperienced and it's going to be a hard time for us. Those guys are pretty good players.
Ray, you've had a lot of great shortstops during your time here. Where does Peter Mooney kind of fall into that line?
Ask me in early June. He's a lot of fun. I like his game. He's a little bit quiet. He's a left-handed hitter. He's got some range at short. He's got a good arm. He goes after balls. I even yesterday when we were doing some skill work, I said to him, I said, Peter, you got to slow down. And I said, you just got to be a little more composed as a defender. He tends to try to make the dramatic great play too much. And the deal is you try to get outs. So I tried to slow him down from that perspective. But he's a good-looking player. Now, that being said, Bobby Haney made 6 errors last year. I don't know that any shortstop in college baseball did that or can do that. That's a tremendous statistic. But Peter's a good player. He gives us another infielder with 3 veteran guys that, you know, he's not a freshman. He's a junior college transfer. He's a good player. I expect him to have a really good year and hit around 300.
When you're a defending champion every year, the next year it seems for every team you play, it's a chance to make a statement. Do you think you guys are ready to have that intensity day in, day out? The other dugout can make a statement. They're a Super Bowl, basically.
You know, I don't know about all that, and I don't know that we'll be concerned with that or our players will be thinking about that. We like to think that you know, if you're playing the Southeastern Conference, most of the time, unless you're playing each other, that's the way people feel. You know, I know when I came here, I was the hunter. We were trying to go get some people, and then you have a little success, you become the hunted. I'd rather be the hunted, and there's a lot of teams in our league that way. So we're not. You know, the good news for me as a head coach is there's some guys on our field that understand perspective. They understand adversity, and it was one reason I think that they played well last year at the end is they never really got too concerned with things when they didn't go well. And they also didn't dwell on it when they had good days. It was kind of perspective and let's be ready tomorrow and try to stay in position. And so a lot of those guys are back. We know, I mean, people want to beat us, we know that, but that's okay.
Ray, what happened last year is such a career accomplishment. Did you have to ever check yourself in the middle of the off season and say, okay, what's the goal now? What's the motivation? Did you ever catch yourself saying that?
No, not really. I never felt that we won a national championship because of me, and I've been doing this for a long time, and it's all about the entire package that I talked about, from our fans and players and coaches, and you know, you have some better teams that don't go as far, and some teams that overachieve. It's part of college athletics, and we just happen to make it magical at a most critical time of the year. So we're not going to do anything different. We're excited about it. I said to Neil the other day, it's a great memory. It's not something that you add more pressure to yourself or you try to be somebody you're not. If anything, you maybe have a little more confidence. You draw on it when you need to. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be baseball will humble you, and that's part of it.
This year you lose Whit, you lost, but somehow with guys like Wingo and Adrian, I still get the feeling that zaniness or goofiness or whatever it was that made that team gel the way it did. It's still there?
Oh, I think so, very much so. And Roth and those guys, They like to play, they like to have fun, they like to win. And, you know, as I said, when they didn't, they were pretty good about it. You know, sometimes early on, especially early in the season, it really kind of concerned me that they could handle it so well, because they handled it a lot better than I do. And I think that still exists. There's some guys, Matthews, Marzilli, Jackie, Jackie Jr., some good guys, and we think we're going to win some games. We know we're not going to win them all, but I think our approach is going to be good, and that's very, very important. That you go play the game the way you're supposed to. You do your very best to get the results, and you take out everything else. You take out the stress, you take out the anxiety. You're not concerned about the other jersey or who it is. You approach it the right way, and you feel good about it at the end of the day.
Coach Tanner, as we've gone through an entire school year, did it make you happy when time after time Coach Spurrier, Coach Horn kept referencing the baseball team as this means we can do it too?
It did. That was a very nice compliment, and I got a chance to visit with those guys, and Coach Spurrier was there for the last game, and that was very nice. I mean, I think, as I said, it's we're all trying to win. Coach Staley had a big win last night, and it's good. And I know when we lose, a lot of people get upset, but that's also part of it. And those compliments were nice, and hopefully, they were infectious in a lot of ways, and we try to draw strength and enthusiasm and success from each other. So that was great.
Right, you had a few guys dinged up during the fall, Anderson, Harrington, and Thomason, who was during the summer. How are those guys progressing?
Well, they're still on the shelf. Deshaun has a new injury. He got hurt a week ago in skill work, his wrist. He dove for a ball in the outfield. He's still having problems with it. The x-rays and the MRI do not show a break, but he's probably going to have to get it looked at. It hasn't made a lot of progress, so he's still on the shelf. Patrick Harrington is still on the shelf. He might be available before the end of the year, but it's likely that he will redshirt. Drake Thomason, on the other hand, was just in Birmingham on the 17th with Dr. Andrews. He probably will be activated at the end of March. As I said at that time, we're not going to rush him. Dr. Andrews is going to turn him loose. He may pitch a few innings in the second half, but it's not a case with him necessarily that you'd say, well, just hold him and redshirt him. Well, if he signs as a junior, then you didn't really redshirt him. So we'll just see how it goes. But he's excited. He's in great shape. He's made a remarkable recovery. He's throwing bullpens now. But we'll be patient. Even though the calendar says you can use him, we may or may not. And if we do, it'll be in short stints.
One or two more questions, guys. You have numerous players from this area, from the Midlands. What makes this area such a good hotbed for baseball?
Well, I was at the high school coaches convention in the state here a couple of weeks ago, and we have a lot of high school coaches that are outstanding. I think in a lot of states, and not to really make this negative, but a lot of times baseball coaches in history have been an assistant football coach or somebody else. It hasn't been a primary coach. This state is a little bit different. Guys that coach baseball in this state, that is most of the time their primary responsibility in their varsity sports. So that's where it starts. I believe when we open up in 3 weeks, we're going to probably have maybe 50% or better with South Carolinians on our team, which I think will be the most. But there's so many good teams in the state. I think Baseball America is about to do a story on so many programs, with the Clemson and us and the Citadel and the College of Charleston and Winthrop and Furman Wofford any given year. And I missed somebody up there, Coastal. But there are so many, by population, how many programs, how many states have so many good teams?
Coach, who do you look at in the leadoff role, and what are you looking for out of it in the first 3 weeks?
Get on base. Evan Marzilli, right now, he finished the year there. Until he proves otherwise, I think he'll be there. We might make some adjustments against left and righties according to how it shakes out. I mean, today I think the first 2 pitchers in the scrimmage is Webb and Harper. And, we got Jackie's a left-handed hitter too, so if Mooney hits up at the top, all of a sudden now you got 3 lefties, but you could slide Matthews in up there. Wingo led our team in hitting this fall, and he normally is in the top 3 with his on-base percentage. So I'm not sure we'll have a set lineup. We might, but I think on any given day, I'll just think that this is the best lineup, and we'll go from there.
Is the door open?
Last one.
Is the door open for Ethan Cobb to come return to the team next year?
I would say that it's open. Now, he's got some work to do academically and certainly, you know, off the field as well, but he made a mistake. He has a penalty for it, and we'll see what happens.
All right, thank you, everyone.